After Lebanon, I went to Spain with my dad for 10 days. We decided to road trip and stop in 5 major cities: Barcelona, Sevilla, Granada, Valencia, and Madrid. In the airport in Beirut, I pondered, should I show up to all of these historical sites with fresh, ignorant barbarian eyes? Or should I be civilized and know some goddamn history? So let's start at the beginning.
Don't sing if you want to live long. They have no use for your song. You're dead, you're dead, you're dead, you're dead and out of this world.
By 1000 BCE, Spain was populated by various small farming and fishing communities. There were 3 main early immigrants: the Celts from Russia, who occupied the north of Galicia; the Phoenicians, modern-day Lebanon, let's go, who came by boat to trade and mine silver. Then the Greeks came, and they began to set up colonies in the area. But the first great civilization of Spain was the Romans, and they brought everything with them: their gods, their culture, their animals. They spoke Latin, and as they flooded into Spain, Latin became the common tongue. They called this new territory Hispania. It's pretty much been the same name ever since. Spain became a central part of the Roman Empire for 600 years, and they made loads of money from this new territory, specifically garum, a fish sauce made of fermented fish that all of the Romans were addicted to, probably like ranch for Americans. They got rich and smelly from garum, and also olive oil, wine, wheat, wool, and mining. Spain has rich deposits of metals like copper and silver. In 70 CE, the Romans destroyed the Second Temple in Jerusalem to end Jewish uprisings. Many Jews fled the violence, and many others were taken as slaves back to Spain. Among them were some who believed in the risen Christ, and both of these groups would slowly grow to great numbers. From 200 BCE to 400 CE, Rome dominated over Spain, eventually granting Roman citizenship to all the people in the peninsula, to collect taxes, of course. And now, since everyone was Romans, they ought to sacrifice to the Roman gods, which the Christians refused to do so. So Diocletian ordered for them to be tortured until they did, and these early Spanish Christians who died became martyrs in Spain. This age of martyrs didn't last long. In 312, the Roman Emperor Constantine had a vision the night before a battle. He saw a cross in the sky with writing that said, "By this sign, conquer." So he put a cross on the armor of his troops, and he won a great battle. And the next year, he signed a paper that allowed Christians to worship, and 70 years later, Theodosius I issued a law that the Roman Empire shall practice that religion which the divine Peter the Apostle transmitted to the Romans, and the Roman Catholic Church was born, the largest religious denomination in the world. Oh, history is so great. Then came the barbarians. There were 3 different groups, but let's talk about the Visigoths, or just Goths, warrior clans from the west who came searching for treasure and land. They spoke a Germanic language called Gothic. How different than the Goths that we know. Their settlements were groups of clans or families up to 100,000 deep. Each tribe ruled by a warrior king. The more jewelry he wore, more powerful the war leader. They wore pants, gold chains, beards, probably looked like us. And the dress-wearing Romans were disgusted by them. Said they smelled like ass. But these people literally invented soap. Who to trust? Who to trust? History. In 410, Alaric, a Goth king, invaded Rome, and his plan was to kidnap the emperor's sister to negotiate for food for his people. So he sacked the city for 3 days, and they ate everything, and they snagged Gallipo City on the way out, and the emperor didn't care. Alaric soon died, leaving Adolf as king, who was guarding the Queen Placidia. Together, they came up with a plan to head to Spain, unite all the barbarians, overtake the peninsula, and they did so for 100 years. And it all went to shit. In 694, the Goths wanted to deprive the Jews of their property and reduce them to slaves. The Jews were forbidden to practice circumcision and to celebrate holy days, and the battle lines were drawn. It seemed that the Jews would be forced out of the Visigothic kingdom, but an unlikely savior would soon arrive. Who could it be? Who could it be? Then came the next great civilization of Spain. In 711, Tariq ibn Ziyad led a force 10,000 deep from Tangier to Gibraltar, Spain. This guy's pretty dope. He arrives in Spain, orders the boys to burn their own ships. It's take over Spain or we all die. Visigothic kingdom was fighting itself and didn't even notice the new Muslim invaders until it was all too late. They took Cordoba, Granada, and the capital Toledo with no resistance. The Muslims called their new conquest Al-Andalus, and these Spanish Muslims became known in history as the Moors. Here in Granada, you have Alhambra, or the Red One, the greatest Muslim fortress in Spain. The Moors brought prosperity and long-distance trade through Africa and the Middle East. The Muslim Caliphate of Cordoba welcomed scholars and innovators from all over the world. Cordoba became a world-famous place for learning. The greatest Muslim innovation was Arabic numerals, which is the number system used today. Jews and Christians were free to practice the religion, but weren't allowed in the highest levels of power. The Jews worked closely with the Moors as bankers, as Muslims and Christians could not charge interest because it was actually seen as making money off of time, which only God owned. The Muslims ruled for almost 700 years in Spain until around 1492, when the last Muslim castle of Alhambra was sieged and taken over by Christian forces. And now we get into the Reconquista. The reconquering of Spain was happening for hundreds of years as Christians from the north would slowly invade into southern Muslim territories. In the late 1400s, Christians brought new weapons like cannons and corn gunpowder that the Muslims had never seen before. They took over Granada, promised the Muslims they could still practice the religion in peace, and the Christians used the same Muslim trade routes to make money from trading, and merino sheep wool made them incredibly rich, which is actually one of the main reasons for taking back the south, more land for the sheep to graze on. Just a few months after the surrender of Granada and that promise that they made, the Catholic monarchs issued an order requiring Jews and Muslims to accept baptism as Christians or get the hell out. Estimates range from 150 to 800,000 Jews exiled from Spain at this time. Now it's time for that bastard Christopher Columbus. In his 20s, he learned to sail and fell in love with it, sadly for us. He got funding to try and find another way to the land of spices, India, Japan, China. Instead of going all the way around Africa, he could wrap around the other way and maybe get there faster. And he eventually landed in the Caribbean islands, which he thought was India. He stayed for about 6 months, left 39 men who built a fort, took 6 natives with him, they taught him Spanish, a few parrots, some gold the islanders gave him. He landed in the port of Barcelona, and this exact spot where residents welcomed him with cheer.
Hooray.
And he was sure there was more gold there, so he got more funding from the Queen and started planning his return. His second voyage, he took 17 ships with 1,200 people, everything they would need to settle: horses, sheep, goats, seeds. And when he arrived, he found the islanders had killed the 39 men and burned the fort, and the early goodwill was gone with it. He returned to Spain 2 years later with no gold, as the gold he first found were trade gifts from modern-day Mexico not present in the islands, and the Queen put him in jail for treating the colonists so horribly. And after this, you have another shit man named Cortez come and wipe out half of Mexico. Spain starts exporting sugar, rum, and tobacco, and they use Mexican slaves to do so, but they said it's fair because in return they teach them about Christianity. A guy writes a book about how awful the slaves are treated, so everyone feels bad. So they ascend to African slaves. These people are crazy. As they export goods back to Spain, people realize they can just steal it in the middle of the ocean, and the beginning of piracy begins. To fight the pirates, Spain creates a navy and hires pirates to fight other pirates. The only difference is those pirates are promised 1 cup of rum per day per pirate, and shit just goes crazy from there. And this is as far as I've ventured into the history of Spain. Obviously, there's another 500 years of history, but I got bored. So thanks for watching. Share it with your nerdy traveler friends. I don't know how you came this far in the first place, and leave a comment about the most interesting thing you learned.